Still getting blank stares when you are trying out your Portuguese in Portugal? Worse still, are people just responding to you in English? I know the struggle to get conversational is so real. It's frustrating, it's embarrassing, which is why today I'm going to share with you 10 phrases that will make locals believe you are a way more advanced speaker than you actually are. So if you are sick of speaking robot Portuguese that you are learning from apps and textbooks, then let me help you like I help the hundreds of students I teach online in my Portuguese Pro program that takes people who are relocating to Portugal from saying their first words up to having their first conversations with native speakers. There's more info and a free taster lesson in the description. So let's start small. When someone thanks you, you've been taught to say de nada, right? Which means you're welcome. So next time, instead of this, I want you to try something else. I want you to say obrigado, eu. So what this means is, no, thank you. So this is really common if you are in a shop, for example, and you have paid for something and the cashier will say thank you and you can say, no, thank you. This is a really tricky one to get right because the vowel pairing of E and U next to each other is hard. People just want to say U or you, but we need to make sure we have the E in there. E, U, merged together to make one sliding sound, not two syllables, just one. Eu. Okay, give it a try. My student Eric used this when he was buying some train tickets and the lady at the desk was so shocked and impressed because he sounded so natural when he said it. This is really something that is going to make you blend in. Another option when somebody thanks you, instead of saying the boring old de nada, you could also say ora essa. This is something that just means, oh yeah, don't worry about it. And again, it's only something that native speakers will say, so you won't give yourself away as a beginner. Another really common phrase that the Portuguese will say when we're exchanging pleasantries and asking, how are you? Tudo bem? Somebody may answer, tudo bem, graças a Deus. Now, this one is such a tongue twister to say. It literally means thanks to God, so as in like, yes, thanks God, we are well. But how should we pronounce it? Because it's got so many S's in there. So let's break it down. The C with the cedilha needs to be a S, and the S at the end of Deus needs to be a sh. But what about that S at the end of graças? Now, if we were saying that word by itself, it would also be a sh, because words ending in an S need to have a sh. Graças. But because there's an A that comes directly after it, we now actually have an S that is sandwiched between two vowels. And if you know the rules, you'll know that this makes the S become a Z sound. So to say this perfectly and exactly like a Portuguese person would say it, we're going to need to change that S into a Z sound and just let all of those words run along together. Graças a Deus. S is one of the most difficult sounds to master in Portuguese because we have 4 different options of sound depending on where the S falls in the word and which other letters are around it. So it could be a S, sh, z, or even j. I go into this in detail in my free workshop for beginners, which is the ultimate quick start guide for getting conversational in Portuguese. We cover all of the fundamentals you're going to need from pronunciation to essential grammar, so head to the description to register for that and we'll get you speaking fast. Another one when you are greeting somebody, instead of the boring old hola or bom dia, you could try saying viva. I actually have a whole video on this. It's called Better Alternative Phrases, where we can upgrade some of these day-to-day phrases that we're saying to something that is a bit more unique. What about the word muito? You might know that this means very, but actually in some contexts we can replace it with the word mesmo. Can you hear that I just did the j sound for S there? So there's another example of a different type of S. So give that one a practice. It's the same sound as we would have in the words treasure, pleasure in English, okay? Mesmo. So how would I use it? Instead of saying, for example, ela é muito esperta, I could say, ela é mesmo esperta. Or even, ela é muito esperta mesmo. So a common exclamation that we will make in our everyday life would be, oh my God, which in Portuguese would be, ai meu Deus. But another word we could use instead of that to exclaim when you're surprised about something, for example, would be caramba. Now, I want to make sure that you are closing down these A's. We don't want so many open A sounds in here. We want more closed sounds, like the A in away. That's a closed A. Caramba. Give it a try. So what about if you find yourself actually wanting to swear? Well, we're not actually going to do that. We want to remain a little bit more polite than that. So here are a couple of words that you could use if you find yourself feeling frustrated. You could say bolas, which is one that my neighbor uses all the time. I find it very funny because it literally means balls. Or fogo, which is of course replacing the F word that is very rude, and I don't recommend you use that. This just means fire. I did actually do a whole video on these minced oaths, which is like polite ways of swearing, a long time ago, but it still holds up, so check out that video if you're interested in more of those. Another word that you could probably avoid without really realizing it is the word sim. Now, of course, when somebody asks you a question and the answer is yes, you might think that that is the best way to respond, sim. But actually in Portuguese, it's much more common to answer the question with the verb that was in the question. So for example, estás boa? Are you good? Estou. Or even tô, I am. Instead of saying sim, I would say, yeah, I am, estou. Something else that you may also be saying a lot, especially if you've been using Duolingo to learn up until now, which we're not actually going to say in Portugal so much, is the word você. Now, this is supposed to be you, polite, so it should be perfectly reasonable to say this to anybody that you want to, okay, and be polite. However, in Portugal, as I mentioned in this video, the way that the language has evolved has actually meant that some people consider this to be a little bit rude now. So we do avoid saying that word. What we do instead is we will use the person's name, or we will say o senhor or a senhora if we want to be polite to the person we are speaking to. So how would I do that in a sentence? Instead of saying você fala inglês, you could say o senhor fala inglês, or if you know their name, o João fala inglês. It sounds really weird to be speaking in the third person, but this is how it is done. And if you would like a more in-depth lesson on that, then do check out this video that I did recently on that topic. So these last two apply when we are talking about the weather. We all know that weather is a big topic when it comes to small talk. So if you're trying to get to know your neighbors, then this may be a really good idea to look into. Again, I have a full video on this with 30 small talk phrases. So if this is something that you are ready to give a go, then I recommend checking that out. But how could we make the usual está calor, está frio into a little bit more native, local, interesting language? You could say que gelo or que forno if you actually want to say it's freezing or it's bloody boiling. So there you go, quick and easy phrases to make sure that you finally fit in when you are speaking in Portugal. If you are making the move to Portugal and you need a roadmap and a community supporting you in learning the language in the most efficient and enjoyable way possible, then I would love to work with you. You'll find all the information on how to apply to my Portuguese Pro program in my free workshop for beginners. I will link it in the description and put some student testimonials in there as well. You can do this. Até a próxima!